Today, we are focusing on an absolutely essential topic for any business: internal control and cash.
Alrighty. Well, hello there. I'm Gemini. That battery can last up to 24 hours even with the always-on display turned on. It's pretty cool.
Alright, here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by defining internal control. Then we'll get into the key activities that make it all work. After that, we'll zero in on cash specifically, walk through the bank reconciliation process, and wrap up with cash management and reporting. So, let's get right to it.
So, first up, defining internal control. You can think of this as the bedrock of a company's financial integrity. It's really that important.
So, what is internal control really? Well, the formal definition says it's all the systems a company puts in place to hit three main goals: making sure its financial reporting is reliable, keeping its operations running smoothly, and of course, following the law. It's basically the company's internal rulebook designed to catch errors and prevent misconduct before they become big problems.
A solid internal control system is really built on 5 key components. First is the control environment. That's all about the company culture, the tone at the top. Next, risk assessment, which means looking ahead and figuring out what could possibly go wrong. Third, we have control activities. These are the actual policies and procedures you put in place to handle those risks. Fourth is information and communication, making sure the right info gets to the right people. And finally, monitoring. You have to keep an eye on the system to make sure it's working as it should.
But, and this is a big but, we have to be realistic. No system is ever going to be perfect. There are always limitations. For one, there's cost versus benefit. You're not going to spend a fortune to protect a minor asset. Then you have simple human error. People make mistakes. It happens. A bit more troubling is collusion, where a couple of employees decide to work together to get around the rules. But the most dangerous? That's management override. This is when leadership just ignores the controls they put in place, often to make the numbers look better than they are. It's a huge red flag.
Okay, let's move on to our second section. Now we're going to look at the key control activities themselves. These are the actual building blocks of a secure financial system.
And this brings us to one of the most fundamental principles in all of internal control. Why is it so incredibly critical to segregate duties?
This comparison here makes it crystal clear. In a weak system, you might have one person who can authorize a payment, record that payment in the books, and also have physical control over the cash. That's a recipe for disaster. An effective system splits those duties up. One person authorizes, another person records, and a third person has custody. It creates a system of checks and balances where it's much harder for one person to make a mistake or commit fraud without being noticed.
All right, here's another control that seems simple on the surface but is surprisingly powerful. Why bother pre-numbering documents like checks and invoices?
Well, it serves a few really important purposes. Using a sequence helps ensure a transaction doesn't get recorded twice or, just as bad, get missed completely. It creates a complete audit trail. If your checks are numbered 1 to 200 and number 173 is missing, you know immediately you have a problem you need to look into. It's all about accountability.
Okay, now let's get practical. In our third section, we're applying these ideas directly to controls for cash transactions. We're talking about protecting the company's most liquid and most vulnerable asset.
So why all the fuss about cash? Well, it's pretty simple. Cash is the asset that's most easily stolen. It's untraceable and can be spent on anything, which is why it needs the strongest possible controls. This table does a great job of laying it all out. You can see how those control activities we discussed apply to both cash coming in and cash going out. For cash receipts, you have designated cashiers, and the person who records the cash is different from the person who handles it. For cash payments, only specific people can sign checks, and again, the person who approves the payment isn't the one who makes it. It's the same logic for documentation, physical controls like safes, and regular reviews on both sides of the ledger.
This all leads us nicely into our fourth section, a process every business has to go through: the bank reconciliation process. It's all about making sure the numbers match up.
So, at its core, a bank reconciliation is just a report that explains the difference between the cash balance your bank says you have and the cash balance your own books say you have. And trust me, at the end of any given month, these two numbers are almost never the same.
So how do you do it? Well, on the bank side, you start with their statement balance. Then, you add what are called deposits in transit. That's money you've received and recorded, but it hasn't hit the bank yet.
Then you subtract outstanding checks. These are checks you've written that haven't been cashed by the recipient yet. And of course, you'd fix any errors the bank made.
Then you do the same thing for your side, the book side. You start with your cash balance. You add things the bank knows about that you might not have recorded, like an electronic payment from a customer. Then you deduct items like bank service fees or, say, a customer's check that bounced. That's an NSF or non-sufficient funds check. And again, you correct any of your own errors you find along the way.
And here's where the magic happens. Look at this example. McMahon Limited starts with two totally different numbers. But after we adjust the bank's number for timing differences, and we adjust the company's books for items they just found out about, look at that. Both sides arrive at the exact same number, $10,075. That is the true correct cash balance.
Now, this is a point that cannot be overstated. The reconciliation itself is just a worksheet. To actually fix your books, every single adjustment on the book side must be turned into a journal entry. That's what officially updates your cash account to that correct, reconciled balance.
Okay, for our final section, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture with cash management and reporting. This is where we go from just protecting cash to using it strategically. You'll often see cash and cash equivalents on a company's balance sheet. So what are cash equivalents? Well, they're investments that are super safe and can be converted to cash very quickly, usually in 3 months or less. Think things like short-term government treasury bills. For accounting purposes, they're basically as good as cash.
So smart companies don't just control cash, they manage it. Here are 6 core principles. First, collect your receivables faster. Second, keep inventory lean, because inventory is just cash sitting on a shelf. Third, pay your bills as late as possible without damaging your credit. Fourth, plan out your big purchases. Fifth, invest any cash that's just sitting around, even for a short time. And sixth, prepare a cash budget to forecast your inflows and outflows so you're never caught off guard.
And let's end with a question to think about. After everything we've discussed, the cost of controls, the importance of separating duties, which business do you think is more vulnerable to fraud? A small business where one person might wear many hats, or a large corporation where a single fraud can be more easily hidden in a sea of transactions? It's something to consider.